I object to it morally, and I find it grossly offensive. Go on, Cap.
The random noises. I am offended that I have to make this video. Nah, I'm kidding. I love this video. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about South Park, or more specifically, their most offensive episodes. Now, South Park is a pretty offensive show, and honestly, they pioneered the whole idea of adult cartoons being offensive. Not that The Simpsons couldn't be, but before them, they were actually kinda tame. And Family Guy didn't become particularly offensive the same way we know it as until it got revived. Unlike most adult cartoons prior to Adult Swim, it had a TVMA rating, while again, something like Family Guy only really managed to score a TV-14. And one reason they get away with it is mainly, it's funny, and most importantly, they always make a point about the state of the world. Doesn't mean they can't make good episodes without a moral, but it does help. Plus, they make fun of everybody equally, even people they love, so it balances out. I guess I could always count down the top 15 most offensive South Park episodes, but first we have a few rules. Well, mostly only one rule. I'm not gonna include the episodes 200 and 201 or any of the Muhammad episodes, mostly because I don't think they're that offensive. Even the uncensored versions aren't that bad. Maybe the speech from 201 kind of is, but it's just the one speech, not the whole episode. Meanwhile, Super Best Friends was just a normal episode that had the misfortune to feature the wrong character, and didn't even do anything particularly bad besides show him, and Cartoon Wars was mostly them complaining about a show they don't like. So let's discuss, starting with honorable mentions. Okay, this time around, we have one honorable mention. Mostly because the episode wasn't meant to be offensive, although there was an offensive joke or two, but in hindsight, oh my god, it's like a horribly good Robot Chicken sketch. In Jared Has AIDS, all of South Park idolizes Jared Fogle, head spokesman of the Subway sandwich franchise. Jared's whole shtick is that he used to be as big as Mr. Krabs' daughter, but lost the weight eating Subway sandwiches, which encourages the rest of the townsfolk to do the same. The boys meet Jared and discover he lost a ton of weight, not because of the sandwiches, but rather...
I also had a little help on the side.
What kind of help?
Well, eating sub sandwiches was a big part of it. But the way that I lost so much weight...
what?
...was that I got AIDS.
Be sure that you see that this is not HIV, but full-blown AIDS, not HIV, but really full-blown AIDS. In truth, Jared means AIDS as in assistants, i.e. a dietitian and a physical trainer, and he really lost the weight by eating as healthy as possible and exercising. At worst, he describes it.
I know, you kind of have to read the fine print at the bottom of the screen. It says I only ate a half-size lean turkey sandwich with no mustard or mayo or anything like that, and then had proper diet and exercise aids.
Basically, it's like saying you got healthy eating McDonald's, but all you really ate was one plain hamburger with nothing on it. The boys, while they find Jared to be a nice guy, tell him he's promoting an unhealthy lie, and this gets to him.
Just eat all the sandwiches you want, you might not be so popular.
You think so? Well, why should it matter?
It matters, dude.
Wait a minute, was this their take on Super Size Me? Because that movie is full of lies, and it would have made a great Cartman vs. Kyle episode. Watch this one instead. Jared decides to come clean and tell people he has AIDS, but he doesn't specify he means assistance like he did with the boys, which causes his life to fall to crap, and for him to lose his job, his reputation, and his girlfriend.
Sure, they're my AIDS now, but after we get married, they'll be our AIDS. You'll love having AIDS, Christine, you really will. And when we have children, they'll have AIDS.
But he just assumes people think he's not being fair, or they're jealous.
Jeez, those boys were right. People really don't like AIDS.
At one point, he tries to tell the townsfolk he wants to fund a charity to give people AIDS, mostly children.
I'm gonna seek out all the underprivileged and hungry children of the world, and I'm going to give them AIDS myself.
You're gonna give children AIDS?
Yes.
I mean, blood transfusions are a thing. Jared is about to be lynched when the misunderstanding is cleared up, and as 22 years have passed, you can now make fun of AIDS. Yay! I'm gonna go celebrate with a meatball sub. The reason this is an honorable mention is due to real-world events. Like I said above, Jared was popular at the time for his whole shtick, and most of the world saw him as a pretty approachable guy. Heck, this episode was pretty sympathetic to him, even if they made the point he was probably lying to everybody. And hey, it flattered the real Jared, but he was also guilty of liking a bit more than sandwiches. In 2007, 5 years after the episode aired, Jared made lewd comments and said inappropriate text messages to a radio journalist named Rochelle Herman Walrund, which prompted an FBI investigation. While Jared wasn't arrested, this led to the FBI discovering he had been inappropriate with various employees, and that Russell Taylor, the head of the Jared Foundation, had been making and distributing CSAM, and that Jared himself had a hand in creating it and seeing it. In 2015, Jared accepted a plea bargain and was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. He lost his sponsorship deals, and his wife divorced him and went into hiding to protect the privacy of their 2 children. It's nice to see the show eventually, picked up on this. For some, this scandal makes the episode unwatchable. Others, hilarious. You choose. But since the general public knew nothing about Jared's predilections at the time, and I'm pretty sure Matt and Dre didn't either, it felt a little unfair to include it as anything more than an honorable mention, which is where it will stay.
The current Prime Minister of Japan, Yukio Hatayama, had this to say.
You, Anna, and the you, Dolphin!
Have I reviewed this one yet? If you don't know, Trey Parker is a huge fan of Japan and Japanese culture, to the point of being fluent in it. He even married a Japanese woman. But Japan has many controversies, among them their practice of whale hunting and whaling. It began after World War II, when most males were in scarce supply, but it continues to incur international controversy, along with also killing dolphins. This episode focuses on the practice, and also takes potshots at the show Whale Wars, which uses eco-terrorism to try and stop whaling, but more often than not, they fail in their endeavors to almost comical levels. I'm guessing, I legitimately have no clue. I never saw or heard of the show until this episode. The boys try to enjoy stuff at the aquarium, but they're constantly accosted by the Japanese, who kill whales and dolphins.
And the Miami Dolphins. We're all set for kickoff and...
Oh, and Dan, it looks like Japanese people are now rushing onto the field.
So to try and help, Stan joins up with Paul Watson, but finds that he and his team don't do much to further the cause.
How about we go on their ship and then beat ourselves up? And then we can tell the media they did it. Great idea, Captain. I'll start right now.
Now, I'm gonna be honest, out of all of the entries on this list, it's probably my least favorite episode, and probably the one episode from a show I tend to forget exists unless something prompts me to watch it, like say a rerun comes on. Well, that and the one where the boys get served. Because by showing nothing happens, nothing really happens. I remember nothing about this episode.
Those guys are always covered in dolphin and whale guts. They don't care if they stink. Come on, let's break their boat.
Well, no, that'd be illegal.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were pirates in a war!
But I do remember the ending, which was the main reason I included it. See, Stan eventually ends up in Japan, where he finds out why the Japanese are so serious about killing whales and dolphins. See, World War II ended when the US dropped atomic bombs on 2 Japanese cities, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But in this world, to save face, the US lied and gave them a Photoshop picture of what really happened.
It was thrown by the monsters who dropped the bomb that day. Dolphin and whale. The Americans were nice enough to give it to us the day after the bombing.
So to get revenge, they spent the last few decades hunting whales and dolphins down to extinction. Yeah, that's productive. Stan wants to tell them the truth, but as Carpin points out...
Dude, they won't rest until whoever's responsible is completely wiped out. Oh, right.
So instead, Stan tells them that cows and chickens were the ones responsible. That way...
Now the Japanese are normal like us.
Okay.
Chicken and the cow? Chicken and the cow? Chicken and the cow use a poor Dolphin and Ware as a scapegoat.
Also, if you're wondering, Paul Watson wrote an op-ed after the episode aired where he actually praised it for highlighting whaling, even if they did ridicule him and his team. It's quite lengthy though, so I cut it down. I could not care less how I was personally ridiculed, lampooned, and insulted. Hell, being ridiculed, lampooned, and insulted on South Park is a declaration to the world that Sea Shepherd and whale wars are effective and have cracked through to the other side of the media culture curtain. Yes, sir, we are now on the same carnival sitting duck gallery as my old buddy Sean Penn and Nicole Kidman's ex-husband Tom Cruise and the Scientologist. I get called insulting names all the time by irrelevant trolls on the internet, and it's never bothered me because I've always felt that no one makes any social reform progress in this world without pissing off a great many people, and the more people you piss off, the more progress you make. But it's one thing to piss off the hoopleheads and quite another to piss off the elite in the government and the media. Pissing off the Fox network is a piece of cake. I've done that a few times. But to attract the attention of Comedy Central, that's a step up in the media food chain. This is especially true for environmentalists and conservationists. We're in the business of really pissing people off, and I could fill a book with the letters and emails I've received threatening to kill me or just expressing their hysterical hatred for me. The pages are practically soggy from the foam dripping from their angry, drooling mouths. And I love it. I do so love making people angry, making them think and confronting them with the ecological realities of what they are doing to this earth and their diminishment of the wondrous diversity of species that share this planet with us. Like Parker and Stone, I am an unashamed misanthrope, and that pretty much makes me immature to criticism and ridicule. Which, okay, even if I think he took the wrong message, that's a cool viewpoint to have, and one I hope to keep for my channel.
Benefits to players is detrimentalized to their well-being. I cannot offer you or your child any cash. I can, however, offer you a little bit of crack. Butters?
This episode features crack babies, aka babies whose mothers did drugs when they were pregnant, which are apparently myths, because I was gonna look something up for this entry, but I found like no evidence. In a Brown University paper I looked up, outright called it an urban legend masquerading as a medical diagnosis, and a label that stigmatizes, marginalizes, and endangers children and their mothers who are in desperately need of care. Because apparently they say you can blame it more so on poverty and stuff like that. Still, drugs, rehab, babies, they're all pretty sensitive topics, and I would just end the section right here, but we have a full episode to talk about, because it talks about a real topic with crack babies as a substitute. In the US, we have this thing called the NCAA, which governs athletics for colleges, especially the big-name schools in Division I, where scouts will typically recruit high school students with the promises of free rides if they play athletics for the school, with the most notable being football and basketball. Typically, these student athletes make great sacrifices to get into these schools, but they don't get paid. Heck, I know some student athletes who took 5 or even 6 years to graduate from college because of how demanding their athletic schedule was. I mean, I took 5 years, but that's because I transferred schools and also changed majors. And like Sarcastaball showed us, these athletes even endanger their lives and their own bodies just to gain a full ride and go to school.
Look, there are good reasons why our student athletes cannot be paid, young man.
Like what? Exactly. Corbin has heard about the business model and applies it to the crack babies, filming videos with the crack babies for YouTube.
Is pit the crack babies against each other with a little bottle of crack. $1,000. This thing is huge, and it doesn't hurt the crack babies at all. We're swimming in cash cow.
Claiming it as charity so it's tax-free, and paying the mom's hospital bills so he has a steady stream of recruits he can quickly dispose of.
Now, do you know yet if your child is male or female, or so deformed you'll never be able to tell?
They said it's a boy.
Just sign the paper and he'll be playing ball for St. Mary's.
Thankfully, Carbon gets karma when he sells the likeness of the CBAA to EA Sports and loses everything.
But you didn't get nothing.
Why, you boys got experience, didn't you? But you little workers had a chance to make something of yourselves.
It's okay, I don't like most video games anyway, even if I like the cosplays of that lady in the white dress and the Eclipse hat. But just to sum up how offensive this episode is, this is Cartman talking to the head of University of Colorado Boulder.
You have some mighty strong-looking workers here, sir. I'd be willing to offer you $40 for 2 of the white ones and $50 for the blacks.
No, I'm asking what his specific condition is.
I'm not sure. Sweetie, what is your condition?
How should I know? I'm...
South Park is known for its disability rep, and that includes having a major cast of disabled characters, including Timmy and Jimmy and their friends from Special Ed. While some can be drawn quite wonky, I mean there was a whole episode where they're drawn like Looney Tunes characters, I guess you can say, for lack of a better word, well, it works out pretty well. I mean, look at how they draw celebrities. And like I said, they make fun of everybody. But sometimes people pretend to have disabilities in order to reap the supposed benefits, and one of those people is Cartman. To me, the most offensive episode where Cartman pretends to be something to get something is Up the Down Steroid. Cartman learns that Timmy and Jimmy are competing in the Special Olympics. Basically, the Olympics for disabled people. Cartman, being the jerk he is, believes that the people competing are all weak, and that he could just pretend to be disabled and then win big.
And when the time comes to compete, I'll kick it against all the handicapped. That's really, really terrible, dude. Terrible? Whatever, you guys' brains just can't compute complex plans like mine can.
But then again, he'll have to pretend to be disabled, because, you know, some people don't have disabilities that are invisible, and he really does his research, posing in front of a mirror, buying a helmet, cutting out clumps of his hair and everything. Oh, and making noises.
Day. Hey guys, what's going on?
Is it bad if I laughed? Yes. But the whole point of the list is that an episode is offensively funny, and especially if it's for the purpose of satire. I don't care, Kitty, you suck. You know, to be fair, I thought about including the episode Raising the Bar as the more offensive episode that touches on disabilities, because that one touches on accommodations, but I didn't think it was graphic. And not to mention, Kyle fears for Cartman's soul.
I know that I often have serious moral objections to the things that you do, but this time I think you really need to reconsider. Because if you do this, I believe you will go to hell.
It's true, he isn't a Mormon, but then again, neither are you. Don't worry, Stan will be there too, because he badmouthed a Mormon family. Funsies! Cartman goes to compete, and much to his surprise, he loses like a loser.
What the hell?
Because while it is an event for disabled people, it's still an athletic event, and those kids train their hardest, while Cartman just ate cheesy poofs. So Cartman loses each and every time. I think what makes it better is that all of the kids, even if they lost, showed good sportsmanship.
Great job, everyone! You three advanced to the next heat!
All right,
Good job.
we did it.
True, it sucks to lose, but it's still a game, and they had fun playing and being involved. When I compete in, say, a cosplay masquerade, my method is to genuinely compliment my competition, because it helps to motivate them. If I lose, I buy spaghetti, because it reminds me of home, and it always makes me feel better. If I win, I get to eat chicken fingers. But Cartman is pouty, he keeps losing each and every time, and refuses to throw in the towel even after the swimming race. See what I did? On the bright side, because he placed last, he gets a gift card to Shakey's Pizza, and it's $50, so that is a lot of pizza.
Ah, screw you, hippies! Shaky.
Is the real Shakey's that good? I have never been, but it's offensive enough for this list, so go Shakey's!
This week's winner is 2974.
I won the cake!
Good job, brother.
Weird to think this one discussed changing the flag, like years before it became a mainstream issue. Jimbo and Chef go to Mayor McDaniels to debate changing the South Park flag. Jimbo doesn't think the flag should be changed because it's part of history, but Chef doesn't like what the flag represents.
To understand that this has been the South Park flag since some of our ancestors.
That flag represents a time when blacks were persecuted by whites. How can a black man not be bothered by it?
And you know what? In a way, I feel like they're both kind of valid. Like Jimbo said, it's a piece of history, but like Chef points out, it's also racist. I mean, look at it.
You don't see anything wrong with that flag?
You know, I'm surprised they never made an episode based on Splash Mountain, especially since the movie's animated segments are based on oral tales passed down from slaves, which majorly complicates things. For PR purposes, the townsfolk decide to leave the issue up to the 4th graders, who splinter off into discussion groups for a debate. But both sides have their own problems. For example, Jimbo himself isn't a racist, and neither is Ned, except towards rich people, but they don't count.
I've never had anything against blacks, Chef.
Oh, I know you don't, Jimbo. I've known you for almost 10 years. You're a good man.
But their protest begins to attract the attention and support of the KKK.
Hello, brother. We're here to support your noble cause.
We don't want your support. We're not racist. This is about history.
Yeah. Well, whether you want our support or not, we're on your side.
Well, Chef begins to become racist as a result of the townsfolk not caring about the issue. Because honestly, it's just a flag. It doesn't really affect them that much. But it allows the flag to remain as is.
Islam.
From now on, my name is Abdul Muhammad Jabbar Rauf Kareem Ali. With everyone in town so insensitive about the flag, I find it no longer fitting to use my slave name.
And while it's fine and good that Chef is against the flag being racist, again, just look at it, he quickly allows his beliefs to consume him and turn him into a racist, like refusing to serve the children or converting to Islam.
Your crack parents turn you into little cracker racists. I never thought I'd live to see this many of the people I considered friends turn against me.
But Chef, we don't know what you're talking about.
What nuts?
I think the biggest problem with both sides is they didn't tell the children what the issue is supposed to be. With Jimbo, he just boiled it down to history, but neither went into the history worth protecting.
That flag is racist because a black man is being hung by white people.
Oh.
Oh!
Like I said, Song of the South did downplay slavery, but the tales featured, like Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, were based on actual stories the slaves told. And by trying to ban the movie, you're also banning stories we would have had no way of knowing without it. Well, Chef said it was racist, but he just assumed everybody realized what was really transpiring. Because when the boys see the flag, they don't see a black man being hanged. They just see people.
Don't you see? All this time I thought these little crackers had turned racist, when actually they were so not racist that they didn't even make a separation of black and white to begin with.
This inspires Chef to put away his hatred and for the town to change the flag into something everybody can agree on.
Wait, I don't get it.
No, see? There's people of all colors. And they added a black guy as one of the hangers too, so it's not racist.
Hooray!
I have to admit it, that is a lot nicer.
Yay, compromise. But would you want to change the flag?
Guess maybe I won't even wear those boxers.
I'm not going to you.
You don't love me! I want to die!
God damn it!
Wow, the one dude on this list who isn't a goofball, Worldwide Recorder Concert, is one of my favorite episodes and also one of the most graphic. The 4th graders are participating in the titular concert, which features the worst instrument of all, the recorder.
Sounding great, kids. Sure, if you like the sound of a peacock getting its neck broken.
I'm guessing they made all of us do it because schools can't afford pianos, which I feel teach music or at least skills a lot better. It's taking place in OKC, where Mr. Garrison is from, and a place he doesn't want to go back to because of the childhood abuse from his father. But he's encouraged by Mr. Mackey to get closure by going to his father and telling him, "What's up, what's up?" Only at his childhood home, it turns out his father wasn't a goofball. Like, legitimately, he's a stand-up guy. I wouldn't mind hanging out with him.
I never abused you.
I know. I want to know why not.
What?
Wait, what?
Was it that I was ugly?
Oh my God!
I wasn't good enough for you. Was that it, Dad?
Well, no!
I think what helps is that Mr. Garrison treats the fact he wasn't abused like his father didn't love him.
But when it came to your own son, you were just too busy.
How dare your father always be there for you and treat you like a son? Awful. Evil. What makes it funnier is that Mr. Garrison's mom acts like his father doing it is a great disservice.
He never did, Mom. Not once.
That's not true. Your father loved you. Often.
He never did, Mom. And I think you knew he never did.
Wait, so does this mean Mrs. Garrison abused her son? I mean, unless he's being an unreliable narrator. We know his uncle did it to him. Why would we put it past his mom?
There was my uncle, Richard.
When was that?
Saturday. Last Saturday. He's a paraplegic, but it didn't...
Eventually, Mr. Mackey tells Mr. Garrison's father that he has to man up and just do it. Because, let's be honest, he's not getting therapy, and even if he did, I would not put it past him to paint his father as an abuser, like he did with Mackey, and to somebody who doesn't understand the context. And he even goes to the bar and asks everybody there what they would do.
Oh, this is one of them Scruples questions, ain't it?
Non-serious question to my viewers. What would you do? I am a chick and I lack a son, so you must answer for me. Later that night, Mr. Garrison is in bed when he gets a quick rough and tumble. His wildest dreams come true. But as it turns out, his father didn't actually do it. He just bribed Kenny G to make his son happy.
You did the right thing, Papa.
I didn't do squat. Here you go, $100.
Oh, that's okay. Keep your money. Thanks.
At least it all worked out, even if it's frickin' gross. But I'm pretty sure this is one of the few entries on this list that doesn't make fun of a political or social issue. At most, it just slips on the idea of a Lifetime special, while playing it dead straight. But it always makes me laugh, so I can respect that. Good for you, show.
Stanny can help us find a non-baptized heathen human.
Will you really, Stanley?
No! I'm not doing you any more favors, and I'm not letting you give birth to the Antichrist. I came here to put a stop to all this.
Woodland Critter Christmas. Hail Satan. Spoilers ahead. Woodland Critter Christmas is one of those fractured Christmas stories, and I love it every single year. During the holidays, Stan meets a group of woodland critters who are celebrating the birth of their savior, even if apparently Jesus wasn't born on December 25th, so it's like trooping the color. And I'm surprised South Park hasn't pointed that out yet. Like when Jesus really has 2 birthdays and he just puts it by Christmas to get extra presents. The woodland critters tasked Stan with a variety of measures to help ensure the savior's birth, like building a manger or killing the mountain lion that's been threatening them.
The tiny cubs all gathered together and cried, all alone in the world because their mother had died.
After the latter is dealt with, they reveal to him the truth. They aren't giving birth to Jesus, but the Antichrist.
You've done us a huge favor, Stanny. Without the mountain lion around, Lady Porcupine can give birth to the Antichrist.
Yay! Wait, the Antichrist?
Yeah, Stan, I just said that. But why the Antichrist? Stan is likely wondering.
But I thought you meant the Son of God.
Well, think about it. You really think God with a porcupine?
No way! Only Satan, Prince of Darkness, and King of all evil would do that! Yay!
But just Stan, don't you know any better? You are Catholic after all. Even if God is omnipresent, so he could just take the form of a porcupine and mate with them. Then again, the concept of animal souls varies, so I understand the confusion. So we've already established that the plot is out there. But it gets worse. For example, the woodland critters do whatever to emphasize to the viewers and to Stan that yes, they are Satanist. And they are also woodland critters.
This is cause for celebration. Let's sacrifice Rabbit and eat his flesh.
Yay, sacrifice me to the devil! Yay!
Well, I mean, at least he's happy about it. Stan can't do anything about the woodland critters thanks to their evil satanic powers.
Oh boy, our satanic powers sure did the trick.
Our powers get stronger every day! Get stronger every day!
And rather than just go to a priest, he goes to the mountain lion's cubs, who are gonna die without their mother. Cause remember, Stan killed her.
Look, I'm sorry I killed your mom. The squirrel told me she was evil.
You got tricked by a squirrel? Gee, you're not too smart, are you, mister?
I know, all of his knowledge went to his poofball hat. The cub suggests removing the spirit of the Antichrist if it transfers into a human via abortions. Wait, what? They go to Planned Parenthood and learn how to do the procedure, and the doctor is like, yeah, totally. You want to watch? You can do it. You could even, look up there if you want. Even the patients are like, wow, cool beans. I'm sure this is sanitary, because they clearly can't just give the patients pills. Granted, they are up against Satan Satan, no pill will be strong enough. Oh yeah, I forgot to explain why they're doing this. It'll make more sense. Beforehand, Stan learned that the Antichrist needed to be transferred into a human host body, and the human had to be non-baptized and not Christian. And when Stan obviously can't participate, they get all sobby.
But we got to have a human host body for the Antichrist.
Oh dear, maybe we won't have a critter Christmas after all.
Oh, poor you. Why can't you guys just do it? Oh wait, human host, okay. Eventually, they use Kyle, because as a Jew, he's not baptized, nor does he celebrate Christmas in the religious sense. The woodland critters prepare to make the transfer, when suddenly, Santa comes. Let's see this flesh, and the blood, and the guts and stuff, and just watch the episode I will not spoil. It's offensive and makes for a good Christmas episode, just don't watch it in front of your religious relatives like I almost did.
Their anatomy is shockingly similar to ours. See? Everything is there. Heart, lungs, kidneys. They're almost identical to us in every way.
Homelessness is a major problem in the US, and there's no easy fix. Heck, I live in Newark, and that has a huge homeless problem. Especially, you think New York is bad? You've never been to Newark. And I'm surprised Trey Parker hasn't heard about McRefugees, because I could totally see that being an episode. South Park has been overrun with the homeless as of late, and this is before they gentrified the town, so the cops won't do anything. As an episode on homelessness, you would expect them to make the point that all you need is empathy, because the homeless are people like you and me, people who had bad luck, were dealt a bad hand in life, and that could easily be one of us one day. But while they do make that point, and they emphasize it a little bit with Alexis,
the homeless aren't monsters, they are people, like you and me!
Well, how should I put this? Have you ever seen a zombie movie?
You mean they've adapted? Copied our DNA?
The boys are told that the homeless will move on if nobody gives them money, but Kyle feels bad and gives one of them a $20 bill.
But I think you could use the money a lot more than I could.
Got any more?
No, I thought that was a lot.
Dude! Apparently, in response to Kyle's act of kindness, the homeless have overrun South Park, looking for brains. Wait, I mean change.
Spare some change.
Leave me alone, I don't have any change!
All right, God bless you, sir.
Oh, now I feel bad. Here! Ah!
The boys have to solve the problem as their parents refuse to, and discover that the homeless came to South Park in droves because they were bused there.
The homeless all came from here!
People in San Antonio got rid of their homeless by telling them what a great place Evergreen was.
But then you didn't solve the problem, you just moved it.
Which I think is a clever musing on why homelessness continues. People don't want them around, but they won't help them get better, and rather than do anything to solve the problem, they just move it around. I mean, one town already did it.
And we'd have no idea who was homeless and who wasn't. The people living in the house right next door to you could be homeless and you wouldn't even know.
Oh, I know the fear. He even did it to his own wife.
No, I wasn't homeless!
Christine, I can't understand you.
Yeah, because you burned my lip sauce!
I learned your rip sauce?
No!
You know, I laughed like a good 10 minutes when this came on the first time. In the end, the boys end up sending the homeless to California, where, while it sucks they're still homeless, they'll at least have better services, and people willing to give them more money. Oh, and they don't even let them sit on the bus. I guess it's because they're too numerous, but wow, imagine walking that whole way. At least we got to see Cartman jump over the homeless.
Our town is gonna end up just like this.
No, it isn't. Come on, I have an idea.
No, we're not having Cartman jump any more homeless people, Kyle.
That isn't my idea!
Of course, we're always looking for kids to feed on the plane rides over to these places. So how would you all like to join the Super Adventure Club?
No!
Okay, some backstory, which I'm sure you probably all know, but I like to review for newcomers. Trapped in the Closet was a South Park episode in Season 9 that made fun of Scientology back when it was this organization that would sue you into oblivion for even mentioning its name. Scientology, come at me. You came at Blooms. I'm not jealous, that was a joke. I respect him highly in the fact that he uses his cordyceps spore powers to educate the public. Okay, you know what? This bit went on too long. It's stupid. Just go watch Bloom's video on South Park and Scientology, okay? What you might not know is that Isaac Hayes himself was a Scientologist, and while he was disappointed with the episode, even if he just figured it was something the show did, Scientology was the main reason he quit voicing Chef. He released a statement giving his thoughts between season 9 and 10, and then promptly left, saying the show was offensive. But it wasn't his decision. In reality, he had a stroke, and while he was in a coma, his staff members, who were all Scientologists, quit South Park on his behalf. And when he woke up and couldn't consent or even talk and barely move, they told him what happened. And because he no longer had South Park to give him to put food on the table, he was forced to start touring, even when he was still physically struggling to play instruments, which is disgusting. But at the same time, nobody but Isaac's own son knew that, and they just assumed he was being a massive hypocrite. Even Matt and Trey thought that. So they wrote off Chef and expressed their feelings towards Isaac with the episode The Return of Chef. Chef begins a sabbatical to join the Super Adventure Club and travel the world looking for adventure. When he returns, he sounds different. Like all of his voice clips are me when I have a tight deadline.
Thank you, Jimbo.
Well, come on, everybody. I'm sure Chef would like a little time to get moved back in.
That's right. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Admittedly, though, it is kind of fun to watch and think about which episode it came from. Like, oh yeah, that was from the one where Earth gets canceled, or oh yeah, that was from Barbra Streisand. It's cool. Clyde tells the boys that Chef wants to be a goofball with him, and he does the same to the boys. This gets Chef in trouble with the police, who try to determine if Chef partook in Red Hot Catholic Love. But while he has only made claims of doing it, he never actually did it, to their knowledge.
My Uncle Bud did that to me once.
Oh, you poor Butters. Wait, we actually met Uncle Bud in Osimo, and wow, he really looked like a goofball. The boys decide that perhaps Chef's fruity little club, the Super Adventure Club, which is totally not Scientology, is responsible in some way, shape, or form. And it turns out they're right. The Super Adventure Club does travel the world, and does all sorts of cool things, while also being huge goofballs to children, believing they will obtain immortality by doing so. Even their founder made a name for himself, because while he couldn't discover anything new, he could be the first to be a goofball with the native inhabitants.
Phineas traveled the world, loving many, many children, and he lived for eternity. Until he was hit by a train in 1892.
Oh, and they also do it on the way over to those places. Not just at those places. No, they also have an all-you-can-eat buffet on the plane rides over. The organization brainwashed Chef to be one of them, by preying on what I'm guessing is his midlife crisis. But the boys are able to undo it by introducing him to a stripper named Spontaneous Boutte. Ugh, she had like the hardest level in the fractured butthole. But he's kidnapped again and rescued again. Wow, this dude is worse than Eren Yeager or a Disney princess. But just as they're escaping, the club entices him back.
Stay with us and your life will be grand and eternal!
Chef, we love you.
I'm sorry, children.
At least until he's killed in the most gruesome ways possible. Lightning, grizzly bears, fires, mountain lions, crapping his pants. So yeah, it's really offensive. And while I guess it has aged badly in a sense, it does work as a time capsule for how Matt and Trey felt at the time, even if Isaac is a big victim. Still, I feel awful for Chef. They Anakin Skywalker him and put him in a suit so he can spend eternity as a cyborg, being a goofball to kids. However, this made the list and not Jared, because even at the time, it was meant to be offensive. This is what they thought happened. It got a little worse to watch in hindsight, but it also kind of makes sense, I don't know.
So Deer said to Bear, "Why the big paws?"
You have no idea how long I've waited to review this episode. It might sound weird, but it's one of my personal favorites. Redman's Greed focuses on the town getting a Native American casino, and not Hard Rock casino, oddly enough. That's the only major one I know. Since the people of South Park have had no casinos, nor self-control, they end up losing everything to the machines, even using their houses as collateral.
What? No, I mean...
No. If you want to leave South Park, fine. Tomorrow, we're leaving.
Gerald, what are you talking about?
Oh, you heard him, Sheila. Kyle wants to leave.
Which works out well for the casino, since they want to bulldoze the town to make a highway that goes through it. That way they can attract tourists from Denver.
We do about the small town of South Park that lies in the highway's way. Simple. We buy it, and we demolish it. Ha ha ha!
But oh no, they're homeless! Oh no, pretty soon they're gonna start demanding change! Oh my god, a whole town demanding change! After a gambling accident gone wrong, Stan encourages the townsfolk to fight back.
Our casino might stop seeing profits.
There's more to life than profits.
Like what? Well, like, Slurpees and stuff.
Now, normally in shows, Native Americans are viewed as these sagely wise figures, or figures for us non-natives to feel sorry for, so we know about the sins of our ancestors. Redman's Greed instead has the Native Americans be the bad ones, and the instigators, going onto somebody else's land and stealing it, while also indulging in every stereotype they can get away with.
Then we must force the South Park people off their petty land.
But they are determined and proud. And the Spirit of the Wind has stated that if we use force, it could be a publicity nightmare.
I think that's the biggest reason I like it, and why I like characters like John Redcorn and Khan. They feel like such breaths of fresh air. The townsfolk are getting crafty, so the Native Americans decide to do away with them by giving them blankets full of diseases, hoping they'll get sick and die.
Tom, it now looks as if the Native Americans are handing out blankets as a sign of goodwill. What an incredible display of compassion. I certainly hope there's nothing sinister behind it.
Which is actually based on a real-life event involving the white men. Unfortunately, the chief's son gets sick too.
Premise running thin. What's the matter?
Papa.
I've given him herbs from the desert plant and water from the cactus of life.
So Stan has to have a vision quest, and out of gratitude, the Native Americans give the town back to the townsfolk. Also, Redman's Greed features this kid constantly spouting lines named Alex Glip. Apparently he won a contest, so he got animated and got to voice a character based on himself.
Dude, who the hell are you?
Alex Glick? I got to come on and do the guest voice thingy?
I wish I could win a contest and be on South Park.
And now you can see, my arms have better movement.
I love this episode so much, and I quoted it constantly at Disney World. See, I don't eat chocolate, but when I was in Disney, I made an effort to try as much new things as I could, like mac and cheese. And I tried this chocolate fondue apple thing. It's Storybook Dining, way overpriced. And I kept comparing it to Christopher Reeve in this episode. Christopher Reeve, if you're too young to remember, was best known for playing Superman before Henry Cavill. But something you might not know is, he was fond of horseback riding, until 1995 when he fell off of one and landed headfirst onto the ground, which caused him to be paralyzed from the neck down. For the next 9 years, and the last years of his life, Christopher Reeve started a foundation with his wife Dana to help fund measures for stem cell research, which had the potential of curing people like him. Crazy Cripples considers the idea of whether or not somebody is a hero because they were born disabled and have had to struggle with it all their lives, or if they're just as valid if they were born able-bodied but became disabled later in life. As Timmy and Jimmy start to lose attention, just so the town can gawk at Christopher Reeve moving his finger.
All that hard work just to be outshined by Christopher Reeve, the super butthole.
Wow.
Ooh. But while Timmy and Jimmy and their plot is kind of funny, because they believe the real-life gang of the Crips and the Bloods is basically like them and Christopher Reeve, well, I think the subplot is kind of what landed it on this list. The way Christopher Reeve regains his mobility is by stem cell research, especially at a time when most of the US was against it, due to stem cells normally coming from embryonic fetuses, which often themselves come from abortion. abortions, but season 5 touched on it, so go watch that. Anyhow, rather than getting injected with the stem cells, like I assume would happen in real life, Christopher Reeve does what I did with that poisoned apple.
But to people like me, it's hope.
Ooh, did it taste like chocolate? Eventually, Christopher is able to walk again, but the stem cells drive him mad. He's confronted by his co-star, Gene Hackman, who tells him to quit slurping fetuses, but Christopher refuses and becomes a supervillain.
Christopher was someone who lived in a wheelchair, always being pushed around by others. From now on, I am Chris.
Ooh, Christopher. Oh, my bad, Chris. Eventually, he ends up forming a Legion of Doom to take down Gene Hackman, or Hackman.
Find a way to get rid of Hackman.
But Gene had already lobbied Congress to ban stem cell research and do away with Christopher. Oops, sorry, Chris. And this topic is so intense that the boys swear they will not get involved.
Guys, I think we better stay out of this one. Yeah, this is starting to look like something we shouldn't be any part of. Let's go play with trucks or something.
When I made my disability studies project and I included this episode, I made it in order to show how South Park was able to go there, while also being true to their spirit of making fun of everybody, by flipping stereotypes on their heads, because their main gripe with Christopher Reeve was he was milking his condition for sympathy, not helping people, especially this scene of him on Larry King, which inspired the episode.
Alright, Chris, the whole world is waiting. Why don't you show us what stem cell research has done for you? Amazing. Isn't that amazing, folks?
South Park, I feel, has some of the best disability rep in any show, even if they don't employ disabled actors. And one of their biggest points is that disabled people are still people. And while they can be inspirational, they can also be jerks, and a-holes, and monsters. They're not just pedestals for people to pity. Christopher Reeve in this episode is a monstrous villain, but because he's disabled and a celebrity, everybody acts like he's an inspiration, while ignoring what he does.
Tom, apparently Gene Hackman, the man who played Superman's enemy Lex Luthor in the movies, has now shown up as a celebrity protester of stem cell research. If that isn't ironic, Tom, I don't know what is.
From this day forward, I will dedicate my life to making sure your film is seen by everyone. I will organize the masses so that we may do thy bidding. Hail, Mel Gibson.
Did you know apparently they're making a sequel to The Passion that's supposed to come out next year? I guess that Family Guy episode was true after all. The Passion, if you're unaware, was a movie directed by Mel Gibson that focused on the death of Jesus. It went on to become the highest-grossing Christian film of all time.
300 million domestic box office, Kyle. The top-grossing film of all time, Kyle. Those numbers don't lie.
But it was infamous for its gory content and supposed anti-Semitism.
There's even one part where the Jews have a chance to save Jesus, and you know what they do? They let Barabbas, a serial killer, go free instead and laugh about it. Nuh-uh. Go see the movie, Kyle!
And I only say supposed because I've never actually seen the movie outside of video essays, so I can't really judge it. But why be anti-Semitic? That makes no sense. Jesus was a Jew. He was raised in the Jewish faith. That's like saying you're a huge fan of Harry Styles, but you hate British people. Cartman has seen the movie and encourages Kyle to do the same. And after he does, it convinces him that Cartman is right, and the Jews are responsible for killing Jesus.
You were right. You were right all along. I thought you were just an asshole when you ripped on Jews, but I didn't know. I didn't know.
Which, again, even if they did, Jesus in the movie was still a Jew. It's like getting mad that the mob killed Tony Soprano. But like a typical South Park episode, we see it from all sides, and it's super offensive. With Kyle, he tries to get his synagogue to apologize for killing Jesus, even though in this universe, Jesus was killed by Iranians, I think, or Iraqis. I totally forgot that episode.
Yeah, it makes Jews into stereotypes. Stereotyping Jews is terrible.
Something must be done to stop that movie.
With Cartman, he tries to manipulate a bunch of well-meaning Christians to turn Nazi because they can't understand German.
But I think it's best we don't talk out loud about it until we have most of them on the trains heading to the camps.
What does that mean, sweetie?
I'm not sure, but...
And with Stan and Kenny, who actually hated the movie because, honestly, they're the least religious of the boys. They travel all the way to Mel Gibson's house to get a refund, even if they probably spent way more getting there, but it's the principle. At Mel Gibson's house, well, he feels like a rejected Looney Tunes character on PCP.
I have to use that money to build my church. I've brought the fire and brimstone back to Christianity with the Passion, and now I'm going to start my own church. And do you know why? So I can play banjo.
The episode premiered about a month after the Passion, when everybody was ranting and raving about it. And I think it sums up what the movie should have been about pretty well, or at least the lessons the viewer should have taken. If you want to be a good Christian, focus on the lessons Jesus was trying to teach, not on how he was killed. Would Jesus actually advocate for any of that stuff? And like they said in Probably, would Jesus really want you to stop living your life just to spend every waking minute worshiping him? He died so you could live. Besides, Mel Gibson isn't the voice of the whole church. Why listen to him? Unless he's defending Scotland.
Hartman? Oh, Jesus, I should have known. When we begin here, we will take worldwide until the blood of every non-ginger child has been spilled.
What makes this most offensive is that people took the wrong message from it and used it as a vehicle for hate. Even Kyle outright says that I guess people will find any excuse they can to hate. Ginger Kid sees Cartman do a report on the titular group of children, people born with red hair, light skin, and freckles. Think Merida, or Ron Howard, or Carrot Top.
It is time that we all admit to ourselves that gingers are vile and disgusting. If you think that the ginger problem is not a serious one, think again.
I actually met Carrot Top once, and I know a few people who used to work for him. He was apparently really, really nice. But in typical Cartman fashion, he hates this group just because he feels a need to hate. And it's not because he hates Kyle. He actually places Kyle into a totally different group of disgusting monsters called Daywalkers.
I was getting to that if you'll let me. Some people have red hair, but not light skin and freckles. These people are called Daywalkers.
Cartman's paranoia spreads to the rest of the kids, who bully the gingers for simply existing.
There, you see? This is what happens when Cartman is allowed his right to free speech.
That's just wrong, dude. I wish Cartman could see what it felt like to be ginger.
And to teach Cartman a lesson, the boys sneak into his house late at night and turn him ginger, which everybody treats like Cartman has some kind of hideous deformity, including his own mother.
But it just so happens my mom loves me, no matter what I look like, right, Mom? Mom?
Oh, yes, of course, sweetie.
But rather than admit that by walking a mile in ginger shoes, Cartman learned a lesson, he instead decides to project his hatred onto non-gingers.
Red power! Red power! We gingers are proud people. We are the noble descendants of great Americans like Ron Howard and others.
Because I think this is a good lesson about supremacy, especially racial supremacy, as weird as that sounds. Cartman hates anybody who isn't him because it makes him feel better about himself and like he's on top of the world. So better he pick on people who can't fight back.
I am not gonna live my life as a goddamn minority!
Unless maybe he just hates gingers because of Scott Tenorman, because he fits all of the criteria. Anyhow, he uses the bully gingers to advocate for a mass genocide, which would be like over 90% of the population.
It's that the only way to fight hate is with more hate. We're not the freaks of society, everyone else is, as the low-life, dark-skinned rats that they are!
At least he'll be superior in that case. I think the reason this is most offensive is that first off, it just feels so weirdly comical. Normally, Cartman's hatred for certain groups of people comes from a real-life place, because unfortunately, there's many groups of people who hate Jews or black people or hippies. That's why they use Cartman as a straw man to preach their ideals against. With gingers, yes, some people might be a little weirded out by them, but I'm sure they're not bullying them. I mean, growing up, gingers did not scare me. The only kid who freaked me out was Alfalfa. And much of what Cartman says isn't true. To my knowledge, gingers indeed do have souls. I mean, I guess I personally don't know them outside of parasocial relationships. Later, when he gets ready to sacrifice Kyle in a boiling pit of lava, and he finds out that he's not a true ginger, he convinces them to change their approach and advocate advocate for peace, because if they found out about his origins, he would probably die.
You what?
However, there's a sad side to this hilarious episode. Ginger Kids, while it's not the fault of the showrunners, I don't blame them, has led to a lot of real-life abuse of gingers. In 2008, 3 years after the episode aired, an event called National Kick a Ginger Day was started in the US, Canada, and the UK, which involved beating up on gingers. Canada has referred to them as hate crimes, while similar incidents have occurred all across the globe. Ed Sheeran even said, as an out-of-context joke, that he himself experienced bullying for being ginger based on that episode, even if he personally does like it. You know how many people say that people pick and choose their own morals when it comes to watching South Park? Like how there was this trend on Twitter for a couple of weeks where they thought Cartman was a champion for anti-trans folk because he pretended to be a girl in order to use the girl's bathroom. Even if the episode made the point, there's a big difference between actual trans people who struggle with their gender identity and people who just take advantage of the rules. Well, I feel like this is the beginning of that occurring.
We continue to be discriminated against. Recently, the FBI has started to arrest men who are doing nothing more than trying to
feed the fish
with a young boy.
Oh. Wow, I think I've talked about the subplot with Kenny multiple times, but maybe like once or twice with the other plot. In the episode, Cartman starts to feel like he's not mature enough, so he tries to find mature friends on the internet. Unfortunately, Cartman phrases his questions all weird, and all of the possible friends he meets are actually child predators, which he's too young to understand why the cops keep arresting his new friends.
Yeah, you're Eric?
Yeah.
I brought you some candy.
Wow, cool.
And some books on Kama Sutra.
Neato.
This is one of those episodes where they actually act like kids, BTW. Among his new friends are Mr. Garrison.
Hi there.
Mr. Garrison?
Ha! Eric!
You want to be my friend?
Oh, crap!
That's cool, we can hang out. What do you want to do first?
Nothing!
Which I think I got mixed up with way back when, as I thought the point was Mr. Garrison was meeting with somebody else, or he thought Cartman was way older than he was, and he accidentally got mixed up with the Predators.
All these men wanted was to love a young boy. There is nothing wrong with love.
I did not want love from a young boy. I like men my own age. I like women!
But Mr. Garrison gets bailed out by NAMBLA, aka the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Basically, an advancement group for... Okay, depending on where this entry falls, the UK calls them goofs, so we'll call them goofs. In BGW, they're a real organization.
We are NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, and we heard about these political prisoners you are keeping. Loving young boys has been around since the time of the Romans, pal.
Not even the LGBTQ community will support them, and for good reason. Within the community, so long as it's between two consenting people who know they have the power to consent and love each other, it's totally fine. Children can't give consent because they don't know what they're consenting to, and they're too young to understand big concepts, so all you're doing is scarring them for life, and indulging in your sick pleasures. But in typical South Park fashion, they make the fact they're scarring kids for life hilarious. Like when Cartman becomes a spokesman, what, he's a man, to the organization and sees no problem with it because he has mature friends. Or how he nets them prey with his other friends, and then they all have a big party with keys in a bowl.
Alright.
Dude, being mature is boring. Yeah.
It's all terrible, and yet it's all hilarious.
Dude, I think these guys
feed the fish
with us.
You think? And it all leads into this French Scooby-Doo chase scene where the NAMBLA guys try to find the boys, while Kenny's parents and the FBI try to do the same. Plus, this is just me, but I find it hilarious that when the boys all realize that Cartman basically put them into this situation, they act all nonchalant about it. Like, Cartman, it's your fault you forgot to scare off that squirrel, and now Kenny has a scrape on his knee.
Somebody's just gonna have to go out there and take one for the team. And I think, in all fairness, it should be Butters.
Huh?
The boys are saved by the timely interruption of Stuart McCormick and his butt, but also by a rival organization of Marlon Brando lookalikes. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned. The episode also has an outrageously offensive yet hilarious subplot. Kenny discovers his parents are trying for another baby, and despite his efforts to sterilize his father, they succeed. So the episode basically becomes Kenny trying to make his mother miscarry through any means necessary, be it an extreme theme park ride or a plunger. But what makes it funny is, I hate to say it, he kinda has a point to hate the new baby, since his parents are going to stick him with all of the work.
Kenny, we have to save food for the baby.
Your mom and I are going out for a few weeks, Kenny. Take care of the baby.
Kenny, you have to change the baby's diapers.
You have to share your room with the baby.
Plus, the end of the episode reveals that when Kenny dies, he just gets reborn, and his parents name the new baby Kenny and treat it like its older brother. Perhaps this is him trying to break the cycle. I think what makes this episode most offensive is the content, but also the fact that, yeah, it's real, which I had no clue about, and Matt and Dre had no clue about. They just thought it was a joke. A lot of what I learned comes from South Park. See, yes, NAMBLA is a real organization, and it was at its peak in the 90s. Camille Paglia and Allen Ginsberg both supported it. Damn it, Allen, you were born in Newark and you went to Montclair State. Why is it people I don't talk to anymore all go to Montclair State? And as shown in the episode, they have tried to do away with age of consent laws, and they act as an organization to advance goofs. To avoid the police nowadays, they don't hold public meetings, but they're still active, and even have their own website, nambla.org. But while the episode does condemn them, and rightfully so, well, OMG, this is gonna be a weird tightrope. I feel like in a way they were also saying, yes, you were born like that, and it sucks, but you could have gotten help, or at least not acted on those urges. That way, you wouldn't be hurting people, especially children.
We are human. Most of us didn't even choose. We were born that way. We can't help the way we are.
Heck, nowadays, there's plenty of resources for non-offenders who know they have a problem and don't want to hurt anybody, because not every goof is lurking at a public park or at the beach. Even Stan and Kyle pointed it out.
Yeah, you know, we believe in equality for everybody and tolerance and all that gay stuff, but dude, you. Seriously.
He didn't get to me. I was just joking.
Look how its face gets all red. He's like a little strawberry.
I feel like South Park can get away with a lot, even saying words that would never cross most people's lips. Among them, the most forbidden of all words, the N-word. And not just like once or twice, but according to the wiki, it's used 42 times. And it's not the show using it as an excuse just to say one of the most taboo words as much as they want. It's based on true events, and it makes a compelling narrative on top of that, with the idea being that if there was a similar word but for white people, especially white men, it would be banned immediately. See, the episode was inspired by a scandal involving Michael Richards, aka Kramer from Seinfeld. He said the word at several hecklers during his routine at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles. The fact he said that and how he tried to wash away his mistake without trying to be sincere basically spelled the downfall of his career. Hey, that rhymes. And it made its way into the episode. Randy is on Wheel of Fortune, and the final category is people who annoy you.
Feed the fish.
Huh?
No, Randy, no. It was naggers. Good thing Wheel of Fortune isn't taped live or anything.
I can't believe you said the N-word on national television.
What?
Aw, shucks. Randy becomes a social pariah for it, and rather than apologize to Wheel of Fortune itself, the studio audience, or actually do something to show he means well, Randy simply apologizes to Jesse Jackson.
And I want to assure you that I am not a racist, Reverend Jackson. The puzzle you were solving was people who annoy you.
As Michael Richards apologized to civil rights leaders like Jackson and Al Sharpton on camera, rather than to the hecklers themselves. And of course, this upsets Token, who is African American.
Jesse Jackson said it's okay.
Jesse Jackson is not the emperor of black people.
He told my dad he was.
and Stan's attempts to placate the situation hurt too. To help the students understand what happened, they bring in a guest speaker to tell them about the impact words can have, even if the incident was about race. And he's a white man on top of that. But this is pretty clever too, besides what I just mentioned. See, during the same scene, Butters called Mr. Nelson the M slur, but his MC corrects him and says that the term is considered offensive, and most prefer little person. And I'm sure Mr. Nelson went into detail as to why during his lecture. But later in the episode, Butters and a bunch of other students follow suit and still call him
Fellas, come quick! Cartman's gonna fight!
However, this is where it gets interesting. Cartman sees Mr. Nelson and starts to belittle him and heckle him.
Oh, did I hurt its little feelings?
That was a poor choice of words, but he does heckle him. But Mr. Nelson stands strong that words are like bullets, and that you let them pass right through you. He wants to try and change Cartman, but unfortunately, most bigots don't change overnight, if at all. The teachers even tell him it's a fool's errand.
I have a chance to change the way he thinks.
It might be best if you just let it go.
But Mr. Nelson refuses to let go of his pride and admit that a boy got to him. Which is okay, dude. It's fine if he got to you.
Shut your mouth!
Mr. Nelson!
He didn't get to me.
No, I feel bad for Mr. Nelson. I really do. But a big point is made that he could stop at any time. Still, he doesn't because I feel like he's gonna lose either way. And he doesn't want to say that. Even if it means getting into a fight with a 9-year-old in order to prove his ever-grasping point. If he lets it go, a bigot wins. If he keeps doing his routine, the bully wins. If he actually stands his ground and says, I don't like you, and actually talks back, then yeah, he let him win. He let him get to him. But back to Randy. Jesse Jackson encourages Randy to support black culture, like go to a comedy club and see black performers, where the performer recognizes Randy and nicknames him the N-word guy, much to his detriment. But ironically, pretty much everybody calls him it, even people who aren't black. At least the people at the comedy club had permission. But Randy never realizes he should feel bad for what he did. And all of his attempts, again, are just attempts to deflect.
I just said the N-word by mistake to win money. I made a mistake too. I was trying to be funny. I got frustrated and thought I would get some shock laughs.
Eventually, Randy is freed by Mark Furman and Michael Richards, although I heard Mark Furman actually did change for the better, who tell him they're lobbying Congress to make the N-word guy word illegal.
We did it! For the first time in American history, a word has been officially banned from use.
Yay! You went against the First Amendment! But back to Stan and Token, because Stan does have an epiphany.
Token! I get it now! I don't get it! I don't get it!
Now you get it, Stan.
Yeah, I totally don't get it!
Yay! I don't get it either!
Because you refuse to accept the life choices of your fellow man. Here you will work every hour of every day until you submit to being tolerant.
Yep, this is the most offensive episode. And in a good way. But first, some background. In seasons 4 and 5, Mr. Garrison went through an arc where he discovered he was gay. But because of the standards of the time, he was fired. Later, he was rehired, but as a kindergarten teacher. Then Diane died, and Mr. Garrison was offered the role of 4th grade teacher, which meant he got to teach his original students.
I want to come clean with you and tell you that back then, some of us were uncomfortable. It was wrong of us, and I want to make it up to you.
Wow, that's really great to hear.
Before he goes on, Principal Victoria points out that if he gets fired again for being gay, he could sue them for discrimination.
Oh, well, there was the case out of Minnesota where the guy was awarded $25 million, I think.
You don't say. Well, thanks, Principal Victoria.
Oh, you idiot. No wonder you got fired. You and your refusal to prosecute the term Hot Cosby. So to get millions, Mr. Garrison teams up with Mr. Slave and puts on a performance for the students, hoping they'll complain to their parents, and the parents will complain to the school. And then he'll get fired and he can sue.
That does it. I will not put up with foolishness in my class. It's time for punishment. Take it, Mr. Slave.
The boys do try to tell their parents, but their parents assume they're being intolerant and decide to teach them tolerance. Which, okay, they even bring him to a real-life museum, but it closed in New York. There is one in LA, I think. The problem is, Mr. Garrison keeps upping the ante, eventually putting a gerbil called Lemmy Wings up Mr. Slave's poop chute to teach the kids about endothermic reactions.
Oh, no.
And there's like this whole song and dance associated with it. Like, please just watch the episode, please.
You must find your way out of this place or you will surely die.
So, the parents find out and decide to send the boys to tolerance camp. Oh, well, that'll be fun. Like vet camp, but with better food.
Welcome to Tolerance Camp. You are here because you would not accept people's differences.
Crap, it's like the unwinding camp. And they even sent Kyle there. Like, they actually went there. The reason this is number one is how they turn the stereotypes on their heads in the best, most offensive way possible. Like I said, they basically sent all of the kids, including Kyle, to Auschwitz. At least Chef just went to a boring seminar, I hope. The camp isn't teaching the kids tolerance, more so forcing it on them. Like with the finger painting scene.
What are you finger painting?
A bear?
Ein bear? And bear has nothing to do with accepting people of different races.
I didn't know what else to paint.
I mean, I like bears, and I'm a person of color. And let's not forget, das Bärjuden went away with them Germans.
Faster! 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 Are you done? What is it? What have you done?
People of all colors and creeds holding hands beneath a rainbow.
The lesson this time around is there's a difference between acceptance and tolerance, which you should be practicing tolerance because that does mean being okay with people of different cultures and backgrounds. But you can also go too far. Like, you shouldn't tolerate a teacher like Mr. Garrison putting gerbils in holes. So you should be practicing acceptance, which is tolerance with limits.
You tolerate a crying child sitting next to you on the airplane, or you tolerate a bad cold. It can still piss you off. Jesus, tap dancing cries.
Which, honestly, I think is a good lesson and a good thesis statement for the show. Like, I can accept people with different beliefs, because I feel like both sides have a point in a way. But I have a problem if you try to enforce your beliefs on me, or you use your beliefs as an excuse to be a jerk, or hurt innocent people. And hey, I have limits about myself. I'll tone myself down around people, especially kids, even if that's hard for some people to understand.
Look, this kind of behavior should not be acceptable from a teacher.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
You know, I'm surprised we haven't gotten an episode yet on banned books, or teachers just grooming students by doing their jobs. I guess we'll probably never get that because we need to have an episode on Mr. Garrison and his many trials, but they could always use another teacher.
We're sorry, boys. Why didn't you tell us your teachers were acting so over the top?
Yes, you boys don't know how much we've suffered.
In the meantime, I hope Mr. Garrison and Mr. Slave enjoy Tolerance Camp, and I'm gonna go finger paint.
Now that you know our club secrets, it appears you leave us no choice. I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to leave.